Good morning, YTPC. Here is good old Redcoats Renaissance from the other shed in southern Switzerland. It's been actually bright, sunny, a bit cloudy, but a lot of sun as well the last 2 days, but it's freezing. It's the days get up to about 5 degrees Celsius and the nights are -1 or 2. And this is spring, you know, it's terrible. It's wreaking havoc across parts of Europe, at least continental Europe, where the harvests and the fruit harvests and the grape harvest will be terrible because of this very harsh wintry start to spring. So I can only pray. I think next week it's going to be better, but for that reason I'm in the shed with a little heater on and a blanket, because it's just so icy cold outside and it's quite windy as well. Well, this is the last in the series of my venture into English blends, and number 5, as you've seen, is Countryside from Boswell's. I was very curious because this one is a crossover. It's absolutely a topped English blend, what some may call perhaps an American blend, and I'm very fond of those ones because I like a bit of sweetness. So I may, of all the English blends in the last 3 years, I've probably tried a few more of these crossovers, and this one is very much the sort of 1 foot into the English blends, maybe 1.5 foot, you know, it's about 1 foot very clearly in the aromatics. So it's a genuine 50-50 crossover, I would say. It's not like some crossovers which are just a hint of, you know, farewell to the flavouring. This one is fairly solid level, I'd say medium. Some call it a mild topping. Oh, by the way, Maurice Ravel has the honour this morning, and sometimes he picks up his volume level, so just reducing that a bit. And one of my favourite Prince Savinelli pipes with the X bowl, the extra large bowl, and this one is I think another Roma, which are my favourite. I just love these Savinelli Prince pipes with the extra large bowl. I had a deal on smokingpipes.eu, and I think I got one of the last ones that was about like €85 or something, a pretty good deal. 9mm. The tamper is a Deco 8. You've seen those before with the holes at the bottom, very nice and very inexpensive. Even these elegant versions don't cost that much. And the lighter is a Azor, which is a gas lighter, not so expensive. Probably I think Azor is Japanese but made in China sort of deal. Well, I opened a tin last night and said to my wife, what do you think of this as a tin note? And she wrinkled her nose up and said, oh, it's awful. And I said, well, can you smell anything? She said, well, smoky and something awful, you know. There was a comment in Tobacco Reviews, a chap asked his wife also, and she said it smells like your old gym shoes, you know. I say I didn't pick up that, but I'm not as sensitive in the nose as my wife is, and so I basically would say the tin note is not particularly a crowd winner. Asked her about the smoke note, the room note, and she said, well, you know, she's still got that aroma in her nose, just more smoky, you know, not as bad. So this is a kind of an interesting one, because often the aromatics, the tin note or the room note is so much better than the taste. This one is going to be the opposite. The moisture, it was pretty well perfect, so you just smoke it straight out the tin. It's kind of a typical Boswell's mix cut. They describe it as a ribbon cut, but if you really look at this, there's a kind of a jumble of chunks and ribbon and, you know, smaller bits and larger bits. You can see a fair amount of darkness in the leaf, so obviously a reasonable amount of black Cavendish and Latakia, which takes me onto the leaf. So there's some Oriental. See those lighter ones? It's almost not much Oriental in there. If you churn it around, you find a little bit more, but not so much Oriental. And Virginia. So both the way it smokes and both the way it looks, there's a fair amount of black Cavendish, about the same as Virginia, about the same as Latakia, and the Oriental is absolutely in the background in this one. You do get flavours coming from it, but it's much more dominated by the black Cavendish, I would say, closely followed by the Virginia, closely followed by the Latakia. And there's your twig that was also in it. So Uncle Phil is right when they sometimes there's a market for twigs and they put it in as part of the recipe. Well, I really think when you start smoking these twiggy things, you're going to get not the most pleasant version of a woody note, because the phenolics will be in there and it will be rather. So I tend, when I find something this big, I remove it, you know. Now, the first bowl I had of this a couple of days ago, almost 3 days ago actually, really bowled me over, because the liqueur topping, a lot of people were saying, well, it's just sweet, or maybe it's vanilla, and one or two said chocolate, and for me it's very clearly a white chocolate liqueur. It could be something like this one. Probably not an expensive version of that, like the Mozart chocolate liqueur is, white chocolate liqueur is, which is absolutely delicious if you're making cocktails or desserts. It's great, but I'm sure there are somewhat less expensive versions that they could use for this as well, but that's actually quite delicious. I found the first bowl still is in my head where my mouth was watering. You know, there are some aromatics where you really think, this is delicious, you know, and your mouth waters. Very, very, very delicious. So, you know, it's kind of always won me over with this fantastic topping. It's not overpowering, and as you saw, it's not gloopy or sticky. It's not. It's somewhere close to medium, I would say, as a topping, maybe slightly under. But it's not one of those toppings where you think, you know, I can barely find it. It's you definitely will pick up the vanilla. It's not as powerful, for example, as Captain Black Dark Vanilla, which is like bang. You know, you open the tin, you smoke it, you think there's, you know, you have to be an olfactory blind person not to, for your tongue to pick up that vanilla. This one definitely you get it, and waves of it come stronger than others. But it's a very interesting vanilla. It's definitely got that chocolatey edge to it. So really nice. Typical. I mean, Boswell's the masters of anything aromatic, I think, for sure. Pretty easy to pack. You know. Just the usual tamp, and it springs up when you do the char light and pack it down, and you're off. I always try and just get a center point going, that it roasts the tobacco around, and then the flavors from that distillation come to me. So I never overdo the char light and light the whole surface. I just want to get a point in the middle going and keep it going. It's definitely low nick, as many of Boswell's are. You know, you could have 2 consecutive bowls and not really feel much with it. So it's definitely at the low end of the scale, and it does burn cool and even. Just if you do it right and not too aggressively, you won't get any tongue burn or anything like that. So just back onto the taste. I've mentioned this lovely chocolatey vanilla, which is just beautiful. But around that, the second one is a little smoky touch, which is very lovely to have that sweet and a little bit of smoky latakia coming through, so that's absolutely there. There's some toasty notes. Black Cavendish is making it smooth, a little bit creamy. What I did like is that this liqueur flavour is going all the way through the bowl. It doesn't disappear after the first half of the bowl or something like that. Maybe a little bit the way I try and minimalise the amount that is actually burning, but I think it's a characteristic, however you smoke it, of the tobacco. There's some other subtle flavours. I'm not as good as when I go to tobacco reviews. There's like 3 guys I always look at: Stevie B, Jim Inks, and Pipe Stud. Pipe Stud does a very compact, you know, in 3 or 4 sentences, so you get the big picture quick. And Jim Inks is the sophisticated one that picks out all these different flavours from each tobacco leaf component, and you know, the masters of their art. But I do find that they're very consistent and they ring true. So I read a number of the others, of course, because it's always good to get another perspective, even the 1-star guys, just to see what disturbed them, you know. This one got a 3.4 in tobacco reviews. So anything above 3 is in the excellent class. It's already above very good, you know. For me, you know, 2.5 to 2.7 is like good, 2.7 to 3 is very good, and anything slowly above 3 is becoming excellent. 3.4 is right up there, you know. I think I agree totally with that score. It's not one that will, like for example Maltese Falcon, which thought, wow, you know, this is incredible. But again, although we're talking here English blends, I want to be very careful not to compare them too directly, because this is, for example, you could make American blends or crossovers a category of their own. Then I think you have a basis of comparison, and unless the tobacco components are exactly the same, in this case the Black Cavendish, Latakia, Virginia and Oriental, it's then hard to compare to another English blend where, for example, they don't have Black Cavendish in it or something like that. So I mean, 3.4 I give it as well, and I would buy 8 ounces in bulk of this one. It is so nice, so enjoyable. You could smoke it all day. I kind of put this one down as a note to me, dessert after lunch, you know. This would be very nice if you just want a sweetness with your espresso, but a nice touch of the English blend around it, a little bit of Latakia smokiness, you know. What it's like, you know, now Sir Walter Raleigh Aromatic is not an English blend, there's no Latakia in it, it's just a Burley Virginia. But the way they've done the liqueur topping on this one reminds me of Sir Walter Raleigh Aromatic, because the liqueurs are just so beautifully complementary to the tobaccos that it reminds me a little bit of that in how the liqueur topping has been done. Others said this is like Northwoods, Boswell's Northwoods, but lighter. Lighter in Latakia, yes, and lighter in Oriental, yes. Lighter in topping, no. The topping here is stronger than in Northwoods. So maybe Samuel Gawith Perfection. That's an English blend with vanilla on it, but I haven't tried it, so I don't know, but many commentators said you can barely find the vanilla in it, you know. I must say, Gawith, when they venture into aromatic toppings, beyond their famous Lakeland topping, which really usually you can't miss it, some blends stronger than others, some of their other ones where they've made it chocolate or something like that, I don't think they've worked as well as, for example, with Boswell's, or even some of the Sutcliffe blends where they apply the topping and you can actually pick it up when you smoke it, and not only when you smell it. So I give it some similarity to the Northwoods, yes, and some similarity to, just from the liqueur topping style that it's done, is Sir Walter Raleigh Aromatic. But very difficult to find one that's very similar or the same as this. I would drink tea or coffee with this, like I said, an espresso after lunch or something. You know, you could have this as a nice morning, because the aromatic is, as I said, medium, but it's not too heavy. In that sense, maybe not so much a winter tobacco as a spring or fall tobacco, because it's just in the right zone, I think, for that. But it's definitely, I mean, you know, it's captured me because, of course, I'm still, whatever I do, an aromatic lover, so it's obviously of the ones I would like to make sure I really have a good stock in the cellar. This would be one of them. Now there were some other reviews. Matches tried this 4 years ago, Matches 860, and he liked it very much. Scotch and Pipes did a review 3 years ago. Pipes and Guitar did one 2 years ago. Further 73 did a review 5 years ago, and Sasquatch Piper 2 did a review a year ago. And every one of them liked it. Well, one or two commentators that actually said, has this got a bit of burley into it, in it, because it generates a fair amount of smoke. It's very clear on the description that there is no burley in it, but and one or two said there's a kind of nutty nuance that could be coming through the liqueur. So at the moment I think that's the effect of the liqueur, and probably isn't burley there. The smoke amount also is pretty good with Black Cavendish, so I think that's the explanation that I see. But it's a quintessential crossover or American blend for me, and a very excellent example of it, made by a great American company, Boswell's. Right, my dears, well, that was the last of this series. I'm thinking actually maybe of at some point doing another mini series of English blends, this time more of them made in Europe than the United States. The only exception in my list, of course, which was not made in the United States, was the Dunhill Early Morning Pipe, which is made in Denmark. So next time I'll reverse that and have 4 made in Europe and 1 from the US. I've picked them out already. Let me know if you think it's a good idea. One or two of your suggestions that were on previous videos in this first series, I've already got the tin ready. Alright, my dears, then you have a great Friday. Enjoy yourselves and prepare for the weekend, and I hope spring is with you or coming soon. Take care everyone, bye bye.